we've been seeing a lot of 50 Cent heading towards Jim Jones having some issues when it comes to the landlord of this property.
We've been seeing a lot of 50 Cent headed towards Jim Jones having some issues when it comes to the landlord of this property. The beef between 50 Cent and Jim Jones has just hit a new level. After Jones took shots at 50's documentary, 50 responded by exposing Jones for unpaid rent and releasing footage of him breaking into his own studio. Now, things got physical when Jones showed up at 50's studio. Let's break it down. The lockout. What actually happened? Jones pulled up to his studio in the Bronx on February 19th, 2026, and the building was on silent. Lights off, locks change, key useless. So, he did what he had to do. He kicked the door in. Same night, 7 hours later, 50 Cent had the footage up on Instagram for the whole internet to feast on. He posted a video, and I want you guys to take notice of the date. Super clear security cam, narrow hallway. You hear a voice on the audio say the lights got cut. Then Jim Jones walks into frame, steps to a locked studio door, and starts going to work on it with his foot. You heard, Jim? 'Cause he don't like that is you talking about the lights. You're not supposed to heard, Jim. Huh? He cut the lights off. First door did not budge. Jones kept swinging, moved to door number 2, kicked it clean off its hinges, and walked through with 2 guys behind him. Jim has kicked the door off the hinges. Jim, I'm with you. What he's saying? You ain't skipping no leg day. This door was just unpenetrable. This first one, the whole thing was under a minute. By the time the morning crowd logged on, the clip had already lapped the internet twice. 50 Cent dropped the footage roughly 7 hours after it was recorded. And he did not just post a video, he posted the paperwork. 2. A photograph of the actual lease termination notice. Legal document addressed to Joseph Jones, Jim Jones's government name, and IFC Management LLC. 2 default notices, both expired. No wiggle room. Now, Fit also posts on the company that says they did put a notice that Jim Jones was evicted. And the eviction notice actually says this. It's from IFC Management LLC to Joseph Jones. The paperwork showed a 15-day notice of default dated January 5th, 2026, expiring January 22nd. After that landed with no response. A 5-day termination notice dropped February 10th, expiring February 17th. Jones showed up with his crew 2 days after that deadline passed, February 19th, to find nothing but locked doors and dead electricity. The tenant was served with a 15-day notice of default dated January 5th, 2026, which expired on January 22nd, 2026. Okay, a 5-day notice of termination dated February 10th, which also expired on February 17th. The tenant's tenancy at the premise has been terminated. The building was called the IFC Factory, Intellectual Factory of Content. Jones had inked a lease back in December 2025, talking big about converting the space into a whole multi-purpose complex. Soundstage, gym, barbershop, bodega. The vision was to turn it into a content hub for the Let's Rap About It podcast, which he runs with Mino, Fabulous, and Dave East. 2 months after signing, he was out in the hallway trying to kick his way back inside. Jim, what is this? Jim, oh no. Yo, the memes about Jim missing leg day. 50 Cent's caption when he dropped the surveillance clip. Damn, bro, this wouldn't happen if we was friends. Want to be friends? I don't know. Let's rap about it. LOL. That caption tells you everything about 50 Cent's headspace. No anger, no threats. Just a man sitting back, watching the chaos he orchestrated and laughing at the screen. What made this hit different was that the footage did not just expose a man locked out of the building. It torched the whole narrative Jones had been constructing in public. The IFC factory was not just a lease. Jones had been on Instagram showing construction, talking about the gym, the barbershop, the bodega. He was selling a vision. He was the boss with the building. Now, that same building was dark on camera, and he was in the hallway kicking doors like somebody's deadbeat uncle trying to get back into the crib after the landlord ran out of patience. And 50 Cent clocked all of that. He understood that posting the footage was not just clowning Jones for getting locked out. It was dismantling the whole persona Jones had attached to that space. Every construction update, every drill video, every "I'm building something for the culture" post Jones had ever made about the IFC factory became the punchline. The building he was supposed to be the face of was now the building he could not even enter. But the lockout was not the opening play. It was the closing one. To understand how Jim Jones ended up kicking doors in the dark, you have to go back to December and to a podcast episode where 4 grown men decided to talk slick about a Netflix documentary. How it started. The podcast criticism that triggered everything. December 2025, the Let's Rap About It crew was in the IFC factory running their mouths about 50 Cent's Netflix docu-series. They called it a mockumentary. They clowned the tone. They questioned the production. They acted like 50 Cent had put out something embarrassing. From the outside, it looked like regular podcast static. For opinionated dudes giving their take on a project. The kind of commentary that cycles through the internet every week. Guys were behind on their bills. So 50 kind of hit them with a jab. You notice their tone changed when 50 said, "Y'all owe $4 million in rent." They try to play it off. The numbers 50 Cent was throwing around were not small. Posts cited arrears ranging from $80,000 to $180,000 on the old lease terms, with some follow-up posts pushing the total figure to somewhere around $250,000 for the full studio space. On top of that, he started hinting about a deal, said he was looking at buying the whole building and scooping up 50% ownership of the Let's Rap About It podcast in the process. But 50 came back and said, "Yo, I got them to pay that money to the man. The man even offered me part of their podcast." Crew tried to play it off, said the numbers were capped, said everything was straight. Then, in what looked like a moment of surrender, 50 Cent posted that Jim Jones had wired $200,000 to cover the tab. His caption, "So Jim wired the $200K over. Okay, cool. He may turn out to be a good tenant after all. Samuel, if you need me to make them pay, just give me a ring. I'm here." So 50 Cent claims Jim Jones sent in $200,000, which I'm impressed. I didn't know Jim Jones had $20K after accusing the podcast crew of being squatters and owing $250,000 in back rent. But paying the landlord did not stop 50 Cent. He stayed on it. He posted footage of the studio blacking out mid-session. The whole crew on camera, phones out, flashlights on, trying to figure out why the lights just died while they were recording. And he has the song "Turn Off the Lights." And he says, "LOL, Cam, turn the lights off on them bumming there with flashlights." That was not a coincidence. That was a demonstration. 50 Cent was showing the world that he had his hands in the building's operations and that the podcast lifeline ran through people who were now in his corner. The power outage footage hit harder than the rent audio because it could not be argued away with numbers. When the landlord leak dropped, Jones, and the crew could say the figures were exaggerated. They could dispute the totals. Nobody argues with video of 4 podcast hosts stumbling around in pitch black using their iPhone flashlights to see each other's faces. That footage did not just embarrass them. It made them look like amateurs running a fly-by-night operation out of a building they had no real grip on. The podcast went on ice. 3 weeks went by without a single new episode dropping. No content, no updates, dead silence from a crew that was supposed to be building momentum. That 3-week blackout was a tell. A podcast lives and dies on consistency. The audience expects a new episode the same way they expect their favorite show to drop on schedule. When the silence stretched into week 2, then week 3, with no explanation and no content, the audience did not need 50 Cent to explain what was happening. They could see it. The crew that had been talking the most noise on the internet could not even get in. Episode out. 50 Cent's pressure had shut the operation down without a single direct confrontation. Then February 17th hit. The termination notice expired. 48 hours later, the lights were dead, the locks were swapped, and Jim Jones was in the hallway putting his leg through a door. The question underneath all of this is, how did 50 Cent even get here? How does a man with no connection to a Bronx commercial lease end up holding this much leverage over what happens inside it? The answer is rooted in 2007, and in a calculated move that showed exactly the kind of chess 50 Cent has always been playing. The 2007 move, how 50 Cent planted the seed. strip away the surveillance footage, the eviction notices, the landlord audio, go all the way back to 2007, and you find the same DNA running through everything 50 Cent did in 2026. That year, 50 Cent and Cameron were locked in a real New York rap war. It kicked off when 50 Cent went on Angie Martinez's Hot 97 show and called Coke Records the label sheltering Cameron and the rest of Dipset A, graveyard for washed-up artists. Cameron called in hot. Diss records got dropped on both sides. The streets and the blogs were tuned in, right in the middle of all that heat. 50 Cent made two moves involving Jim Jones and Juelz Santana, and neither one involved a microphone. First play, he pulled Jim Jones onto BET's Rap City as a guest while 50 was co-hosting. Jones sat with the Gunna crew on camera and dead told the world that Gunna was one of the few movements that I do respect. While Cameron was in a war with Gunna, his own man was on bet gassing them up. Second play, 50 Cent brought Jim Jones and Juelz Santana out as surprise guests on stage at a live show in New York. Both men performed alongside Gunna in front of a packed crowd inside the diaper camp that was treated as straight betrayal. Years down the line, Cameron sat down with 50 Cent on the Talk with Flea YouTube show and broke down what that move cost him. He said Dipe It was already falling apart internally. Drama nobody on the outside knew about. So when Jones and Santana hit that stage of the enemy, it did not just look bad, it accelerated everything. Cam called it a checkmate moment and said he had to respect the diabolical nature of the play. Even while taking the L, 50 Cent confirmed it was all calculated. Straight Art of War tactics designed to split Dipset from the inside by pulling key members into Gunna's orbit while the crew was already cracking anymore. Fifth is the only I know that when you cross him if it takes 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 2. Months, 3 months, 5 months, 2.5 years. He still delivers. He doesn't give an academic, said it cleanest. 2007 and 2026 are the same play, same mind, same patience, different weapon. In 2007, the weapon was a concert appearance in a BET cosign. In 2025 and 2026, the weapon was a landlord named Sam. This is how Dirty 50 plays. 50 knows you is broken, so 50 has now enticed the goddamn owner of the property. What 2007 also reveals is that Jim Jones has always been the weak link in any crew he runs with. He was the one who sat with Gunna on BET. He was the one who performed on stage with the opposition. Not Cameron, not Joel Jones. And that history means that every time 50 Cent needs to apply pressure to Jones in public, the receipts from 2007 are already loaded. Jones cannot stand on loyalty as a defense because the tape shows him choosing the other side when the heat was on. 50 Cent knows this and he uses it. The pattern does not stop in 2007. It runs through 50 Cent's entire career. Including the moments where it looked like he was the one taking the L. In 2015, he was staring down a $17 million arbitration judgment from Sleek Audio and a $5 million privacy judgment from Lastonia Leon. At the same time, he filed Chapter 11. The blogs called it a fall from grace. But Chapter 11 is a reorganization, not a burial. He locked in a payment plan worth roughly $23 million spread across 5 years and walked out the other side intact. While the case was active, he was on Instagram surrounded by stacks of cash. People thought he was trolling the judge. He explained it plainly on Conan. Conan, my audience doesn't understand the difference between Chapter 11 and Chapter 7. Yeah, when you file Chapter 11, you just really reorganize. You're reorganizing your business. He came out of the bankruptcy and did not slow down once. By 2026, he had locked in a $124 million commitment to build a film and entertainment complex in Shreveport, Louisiana, using his own assets to back it. That Shreveport move matters because it shows you where 50 Cent actually lives mentally. While he is out here posting Jim Jones eviction notices, he is not in his feelings about a Bronx podcast. He is building a 9-figure film infrastructure in Louisiana and expanding a media empire simultaneously. The Jim Jones situation is not his main event. It is a side hustle he runs between boardroom meetings. And that gap in operating level is exactly what makes the whole thing so lopsided. Jones is fighting for a studio he cannot pay rent on. 50 Cent is literally building studios for a living. This is the man Jim Jones decided to talk sideways about on a podcast. And when 50 Cent moved, he did not just move on the surface. He reached inside the building itself and grabbed the keys. The ownership play. How 50 Cent became the landlord. February 20th, 2026. One day after dropping the door-kicking surveillance footage on the whole internet, 50 Cent pulled out his next card. He posted a photo with Sam, the building owner himself, standing next to 50 Cent looking comfortable. And 50 Cent told the world exactly what that photo meant. Caption: Sam is my partner. I own the joint. Now you're going to fix every door you kick, or I'm going to kick Jimmy. By Monday, you're destroying my property. No deed, no LLC paperwork dropped publicly, no closing documents circulating. But 50 Cent did not present as a rumor or a possibility. He presented it as already done. Effective immediately, the door-kicking footage was no longer just an embarrassing viral clip. It was now property damage committed against 50 Cent's investment. Jim Jones went from locked-out tenant to man who owes 50 Cent a new door by Monday. The escalation was complete. 50 has said he's going to beat y'all up. I ain't say it. Says it right here. He posted your landlord. Yo, 50 is great. 50 Cent had gone from posting receipts on Instagram to positioning himself as the authority over the physical space where the podcast operated. He was no longer a beef participant commenting from the outside. He was, by his own declaration, the landlord's partner sitting at the table where decisions about that building got made. So your landlord is bullying you on behalf of 50 Cent. All the tough talk y'all got, y'all ain't pulling up on a landlord. Academics broke it down the way the streets understood it. And 50's whole goal is not to make money off real estate. It's with 4 underscore on it. That's on a podcast that literally, if they just moved out and went to somewhere else, 50 can't affect them anymore. This was never about property investment. It was about trapping Jim Jones in a situation he could not exit without publicly taking the L. The building was a cage and 50 Cent just grabbed the key. The diabolical thing about the ownership announcement is that it flipped the burden of proof onto Jim Jones without Jones being able to do anything about it in real time. Before the Sam photo, Jones had a landlord dispute, a legal matter between a tenant and a property owner, the kind of thing that gets settled in housing court. The second 50 Cent posted that picture and said, I own the joint. Jones had to somehow prove that 50 Cent did not have a legitimate stake in the building. And you cannot litigate that on Instagram. You cannot counter a property partnership claim with a kung fu video and a caption about free promo. Jim Jones's response was exactly that, though. Kung fu videos. He posted clips of himself going to work on a training dummy, nodding to the 1985 film, The Last Dragon. He captioned it, spokesperson, and took the factual route. He hit Angela Ye's way up and laid out the counterargument. The lease was 5 years. The crew had no personal liability for rent that sat with the LLC. The eviction had never gone through proper legal channels. No court order, no marshal, no sheriff. He said the landlord had illegally changed the locks. Police got called and the landlord ended up being walked out by officers while the crew reclaimed access. He called the whole situation, capped, and did a walkthrough on camera to show the studio was still live. Mino's walkthrough was the most grounded counter move the crew put together during the entire run. He showed up inside the building on video, pointed at the equipment, proved the podcast had not been permanently shut down. But here is where it fell short. A studio walkthrough proves you have access to a building. It does not undo the image of your landlord posted up with your enemy smiling. It does not erase the surveillance footage of your co-host kicking the door in at 2 a.m. Mino won the legal argument on camera. He lost the internet argument before he even started talking. So, we do got 50 who is commenting on, and he's still trolling Jim Jones and him. By the way, we got to actually, I guess we should probably start with Jim Jones. The public picture was already painted and sealed, but 50 Cent was not done putting brushstrokes on it, because while the property war was playing out in real time, he was cooking up a creative weapon that would reach back into Jim Jones's past and drag out a name that carries more weight than any leased document ever could. The AI video and the snitching angle. 50 Cent's final move. March 7th, 2026. 50 Cent jumped on Max B's track, No More Tricks, from his 2024 project, Public Domain. Retitled it No More Tricks, No More Tries, and dropped a new verse over it. Dame Grease on production. No features. Just 50 Cent airing out the whole podcast crew. Jim Jones, Mino, Fabulous, and Dave East by Name on Wax. 3 days later, on March 10th, 50 Cent unveiled a full AI-generated music video for the track built by content creator A Man of One. IND that showed 50 and Max be riding through New York City streets with animated scenes targeting all 4 co-hosts. Jim Jones got placed in what looked like an interrogation room timed directly to the line about snitching. That visual was not random. It was a call back to the longest-running accusation in Jim Jones's career, and one that has followed him through 3 separate situations. The first incident hit in September 2019 during Tekashi 69's federal racketeering trial in Manhattan. 6ix9ine took the stand and testified that Jim Jones was a member of the 9 Trey Bloods. Prosecutors then played a wiretap phone call from November 2018. Jones and an alleged 9 Trey leader talking about what needed to happen to 6ix9ine for running his mouth about gang members. Jones was not charged, not arrested. The wiretap was used as evidence against the actual defendants in that case, not against Jones. But 50 Cent archived that footage and has been pulling out ever since, framing Jones's presence on the recording as cooperation. The second accusation landed in May 2024. Videos surfaced of Jim Jones in a physical altercation at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. After it went down, Jones talked to the responding officers and told them what happened. Whack 100 put the footage on Instagram and tagged Jones as a rat for speaking to law enforcement. Called it snitching on record. Jones denied it, said that describing an assault to police when you're the victim is not snitching and no charges came from the incident on any side. The third set of allegations runs deeper and goes further back, tied to the long-running rumors inside the Dipset camp about Max B's 2009 arrest and a conviction that followed on robbery and murder charges. Cameron dropped hints in interviews that Jones had a hand in events surrounding Max B's legal situation. Max B himself has spoken on related topics from prison, but no court records, no official filings, no documented evidence has ever connected Jim Jones to that case. And Jones has never been questioned or charged in relation to any of it. Here's the thing about all 3 of those situations, the 6ix9ine trial, the airport clip, and the Max B rumors. It does not matter whether any of them hold up in a courtroom. What matters is that they are all findable, searchable, documented somewhere on the internet. And every time 50 Cent wants to remind the culture about them, he does not have to say a word. He just puts Max B in a music video. He puts Jones in an interrogation room in an animated disc clip. He lets the association do the talking, and the audience fills in every gap themselves. And here is Max B featured in a 50 CAI video in March 2026. Guns trained directly at Jim Jones. That casting choice was a precision strike. Max B in that video is not just a feature. He is a reference. He is a reminder to everyone watching that the snitching allegations attached to Jim Jones's name have never gone away, and that 50 Cent has no interest in letting them. 50 Cent captioned the post, "I am the algorithm." Sit with that caption. He is not claiming to be the hardest rapper. He is not debating bars or flows. He is saying he controls how information moves, how narratives get shaped, how names get buried, and who the internet remembers as a winner in 2026. That is more power than a hit record. He's playing with hundreds of millions of dollars. So the 1 or 2 or 3, just to get a point across, and then keep that image and aura of I'm 50, I annihilate everyone. I think you'll do it. The AI video is also a flex about resources that Jones could not match on any level. 50 Cent did not need a director, a location scout, a set, a production crew, or a shoot day. He commissioned a fully animated, fully produced disc video that spread through every hip-hop platform inside 24 hours at a fraction of what a traditional video costs. While Jim Jones was posting phone-recorded kung fu clips to clapback, 50 Cent was using artificial intelligence to build a cinematic takedown of his entire crew. The distance between what each man had access to technically, financially, creatively was visible in every single frame of that video. Jim Jones came for 50 Cent's Netflix documentary in December 2025 and called it a mockumentary. By March 2026, 50 Cent had aired out his unpaid rent, posted his government name on eviction paperwork for the internet to screenshot, partnered with his landlord, put his door-kicking moment on blast to millions of people, and dropped an AI-assisted visual disc featuring the one name most likely to make Jones uncomfortable, all without trading a single punch, catching a single charge, or even raising his voice. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.